What's up, everyone? Welcome back to this edition of the Unathletic. As you know, I'm Nate. I'm sitting here with my man, Ben Friedel. Ben, how are you doing today?
I'm a little under the weather, Nate. That's why we're kind of doing a little role reversal today. So you are actually going to be hosting this show. So it is your host, Nate Wiggins, alongside Ben Friedel, as always. So
yes,
the roles have reversed.
I'm very happy to be given the keys to the car. And who knows where this car is going to end up going.
No idea.
But as usual, just want to introduce what this show is about. So here at the Unathletic, we like to talk about the sports and stories that may not get enough attention on major sports networks. And, we want to talk about the sports that we want to talk about. And there's nothing that any of you can do to change that.
Nope.
So, I guess we can jump right along into it. And so the big news in the soccer world that just absolutely stunned everybody. Arsenal's manager since 1996, Arsene Wenger, is stepping down at the end of the season. And this came as a shock to many people. I know you and I have talked numerous times on this show about how it's time for him to walk away. It was time for him to walk away 5 years ago. But next season, for the first time in our lifetimes, there will be a new manager managing Arsenal Football Club. And so I ask you, Ben, as an Arsenal fan, what was your first reaction?
Well, my first reaction, I was actually the news broke very early in the morning, so you and I both just sort of I think had similar timings to it. We just woke up in the morning, and then I just went on social media like I usually do in the morning, and I just scrolled down to see on Bleacher Report Football, the Arsenal page, like the official Arsenal page, with the hashtag Merci Arsene. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is a joke. Like, I couldn't really even comprehend what was going on. And like you said earlier, we've had so many discussions on this show about how this guy should have been sacked long ago, especially since Arsene Wenger, I think, has been very stubborn in terms of tactically changing in order to adapt to the successes of other teams in the league like Manchester City, Manchester United, etc. But yeah, I was pretty shocked. I'm happy, I would say, at this news. I'm excited that this franchise is going to be able to turn a quarter, I think, especially since it has gone from its invincible season in the 2003-2004 season to a running meme almost. It seems like Arsenal is sort of almost the laughing stock of the Premier League. And as an Arsenal fan, that always isn't the most enjoyable experience. So I'm excited to kind of get this ship turned around. But at the same time, I am a little sad because the official Arsenal account especially was posting a lot of videos about all the successes that Arsene Wenger has had at this club. He's won a lot of trophies, and he's really changed English football into what it is today and really changed the soccer world. And so I think he should be given credit for that, even though he's just come under a lot of fire recently. So I'm mostly happy, but a little bit sad because I realize that the guy is a true legend.
Yeah, for me, my first reaction was just like, what? Because it was so early in the morning that I looked at my phone and I saw a couple notifications, and I thought I couldn't really, how early in the morning you're not really sure what's going on. I was like, wait, am I still dreaming? What is happening? And then as I went on to social media, and I followed the official Arsenal account on Twitter, and as I saw what they were posting, I saw what other people in the soccer world were saying. I was like, wow, this is really happening. And I think you kind of answered this question, but your feelings about Arsene Wenger, and I think that it was, we have talked multiple times here about Arsenal Fan TV, and we both love Arsenal Fan TV. And one of the people on Arsenal Fan TV, DT, one of the, I would say, more famous members of Arsenal Fan TV.
More intellectual members of Arsenal Fan TV.
Brought out a banner last season that said, thanks for the memories, but it's time to walk away. And I think you kind of hit at that. That's how you're feeling about Arsene Wenger right now.
I think that pretty much sums up how I'm feeling. Definitely, he's had a lot of great moments, but now is the time to move on, for the club to enter a stage of transition, to fully take advantage of the likes of Aubameyang and Lacazette, in the starting line. So I think that, and if I'm being honest, I haven't been a soccer fan for as long as a lot of the guys on Arsenal Fan TV have. The guys on Arsenal Fan TV, it was interesting. They have been just bagging on Arsene Wenger for seemingly years, or at least however long the program has even existed, just Wengerout all the time. And a lot of these guys, upon hearing the news, they were, posting videos of their reactions. They were pretty sad. They were pretty heartbroken, which I think if you're not a regular watcher of Arsenal Fan TV, you may think that that's a little bit unexpected, especially for the ways in which guys like Troops have just laid in Arsene Wenger, just calling him every single name under the sun. But a lot of those guys were really sad because all those guys grew up with Arsene Wenger as the manager and gave them so many amazing moments. And so it really is, I think, a very emotionally complex time at Arsenal. It's not, I think, all just butterflies and rainbows at this point just because Arsene's leaving. I think a lot of these fans on Arsenal Fan TV and beyond are actually kind of sad that he's going, but also believe, thank you for the memories, but it's time to say goodbye. And unlike those Arsenal fans, I've only seen the bad parts of Arsene Wenger. I've only seen the negatives and the lack of success, albeit we've won a few FA Cups. I mean, that's a domestic cup that is, it's great to win trophies. I mean, Tottenham can't even do that, am I right? They disqualified themselves yet again from winning another trophy this season. So the fact that Arsene Wenger is, even in his struggles, helped maintain Arsenal to win trophies, even though it's not the trophies that you necessarily would think that we're shooting for every single year, I think is part of, I think, what is going to make him a legend at the end of the day.
Yeah. And, I think that with Arsenal, and you can talk about how people were very distraught that he's leaving. But one of the things that I think with Arsenal is that I feel like people have used Arsene Wenger as a crutch just to say, this is the reason why we're not winning. And now that he's gone, I think that there are some people that think, oh, Arsenal right now, they're going to rise back to being the Premier League champions. I personally don't think that. I think that now with Arsenal, now that he's gone, he was a problem. So I think that there's less excuses now. But I still think that Arsenal is very far off from the top teams in the Premier League. So, how are you feeling about the state of the club right now and the state of the club moving forward into next season and the years beyond?
I'd say right now, I have more confidence that we're going to finish this year strong. I think the players are going to have a little bit more fire underneath them in terms of just sort of winning out the season and doing it for Arsene and sending him off in the best way that they can. With that being said, I am feeling better about the upcoming match against Atletico Madrid on Thursday. I think these players are now going into that match with more to prove than they already had going in. And so it gives me more confidence. I still will say I don't necessarily like our chances in that match, but I like them a little bit better now, just in the very immediate short term from this Arsene Wenger announcement, that these players are definitely going to come out with something to prove in order to support their manager. And then to answer your second question, kind of moving forward, yeah, we'll wait on that. And how are you feeling right now? Because that Arsenal, doesn't have really anything to play for other than the Europa League. So how are you feeling about Arsenal right now?
I think going into the Atletico match, this does not change anything for me. I said last week that I have Atletico going through comfortably, and I still think I have Atletico going through comfortably. Even with the injury to their striker, Diego Costa, I think that you look at Arsenal's defending, and we have talked numerous times about how poor Arsenal's defending is. You think that Arsenal's defending can stop that attack? You think that they can stop a guy like Griezmann? I don't think so. So, yeah, sure, the players may be more motivated, but in terms of tactics, in terms of talent on the field, this does not change anything for me. I still have Atletico going through comfortably. But speaking of Atletico Madrid, their head manager, Diego Simeone, is one of the rumored candidates to replace Arsene Wenger on the touchline at the Emirates next season. And so I ask you, Ben, who do you want to be the next manager of Arsenal Football Club, but who do you think is going to be the next manager of Arsenal? Because those could be two totally different things.
Yes, and I also think this is answering the question about my feelings about Arsenal moving forward. And so moving forward, who I want to see as manager would be a club legend like Patrick Vieira, who is the current manager at NYCFC and MLS. I know you and I have split opinion about whether or not Vieira would leave MLS to go to Arsenal, but I definitely think that Arsenal, in their few comments as a front office, as an organization that they've made after this Arsene Wenger announcement, they've really concluded that they want to hire someone who is going to maintain the tradition of the club and hold the club's values in high regard. And I think hiring someone who has been around the club for a long period of time would be the answer to that. And so I think Patrick Vieira definitely would be a good manager to bring in. So that's who I would want, but who I think they're going to bring in is a guy like Carlo Ancelotti, who was the manager at Bayern Munich before he got sacked very, very early in the season because his players, I think people are forgetting, his players revolted against him at Bayern Munich.
His players like stopped playing for him. They didn't
and
like
they
him.
held like their own individual practices outside of normal training just because they didn't want to play for this guy. So to your point that Arsene Wenger was just, I think he's just one of the many problems that are in Arsenal Football Club right now. I think they have a lot of problems in their front office, and due to the inefficiency and its seemingly consistent poor decision making that their upper management has had, especially in their board of directors, I can see them going and getting a Carlo Ancelotti, and kind of disregarding the fact that, you know, albeit 6-7 months ago, he was managing a team of players that didn't want to play for him. And no, that's not to say that, you know, maybe he finds success at Arsenal. We don't know yet. I think it's pure speculation at this point. But I definitely, that would be a very Arsenal-type move to bring in Ancelotti. I don't know. What about you, Nate? Who do you think is going to be the next manager of Arsenal?
I think that whoever they bring in is going to be it's going to be a short-term gig. Because, and you and I were talking about this yesterday, you never want to be the guy that replaces the legend. Mm-hmm. You want to be the guy that replaces the guy that replaced the legend. So I think that it's going to be Luis Enrique, the former manager at Barcelona, who won the Champions League with Barcelona in 2015. Retired from managing in 2017. But from what I've read, it sounds like he's going to be the favorite. But I think him coming in as a guy who has success in major European competitions and has managed the likes of Messi, Suarez, these big name players, because I think that, you know, from what I can tell, there are some egos at Arsenal, particularly in the dressing room. So I think you got a guy who can come in and can kind of straighten everything out and say, you know what, hey, I won the Champions League. This is how we're gonna do it. I think he can come in and provide a nice little short-term transition into whoever that next person is going to be. A person that we were talking about, you bring up Patrick Vieira. Another person we were talking about was Thierry Henry. Mm-hmm. Thierry Henry, a former Arsenal legend. What are your feelings on Thierry Henry?
Thierry Henry, I think, is a very interesting question. I think your point to you never want to be the guy that replaces the legend, I think that traditionally has been the case. Like, we've seen guys come in, like, I think David Moyes is like the prime example of that, coming into
Man. And he was really successful at Everton.
Yeah.
You know, and then
for like around a decade he was successful. Yeah. He was a legend in and of himself at Everton, came to Man United, and he's sort of now the universal scapegoat amongst managers in like global soccer. He himself is a meme if we want to
Yes, he is.
If we want to keep on that level. But I would like to see that trend broken. I wouldn't want to fall back on the idea of, okay, we're going to just hire this sort of interim manager just because we don't have the most confidence in him. If I were managing Arsenal, I would want to come out guns blazing, no pun intended.
Hey, I see what you did there.
And just bring in a guy who is going to instill the utmost confidence in the club. Like, imagine if Manchester United had brought in, I think at that point when they were hiring David Moyes, imagine if they brought in a guy like Ruud van Nistelrooy, who is like a club legend. Yeah. I think that would have given the players a lot more confidence moving forward into that season. So that's why
it's someone that you have respect for. It's like, hey, he knows what success is here.
Yeah.
Versus an outsider.
Exactly.
I see exactly where you're going with
this.
Yeah.
Thierry Henry, I think, would be an even better option than Van Nistelrooy would have been for Man United, as kind of my hypothetical example. Henry, he's been kind of honing his managerial craft as an assistant for the Belgian national team, and I don't think that he just has that job just because. I think he's doing that in order to get managerial experience because he realizes, I mean, he's a commentator on Sky Sports in England. He is watching week in and week out Arsene Wenger and the
ineptitude.
Ineptitude and limitations that he's putting on the club. And I think that he's sort of honing his craft and he still is around the club all the time. He's very open about how much he loves Arsenal and how much he supports them. I think that it is his goal one day to manage Arsenal. So why not now? Why not now versus later?
It's almost like a Zinedine Zidane type of thing. And we've seen Zinedine Zidane come in and win 2 straight Champions League crowns. So that idea of a player, a club legend coming in and being a manager, whether that is going to be a Patrick Vieira or a Thierry Henry, I think that that's an idea that could work. Personally, I would not like to see Patrick Vieira leave MLS for 2 reasons. A, because I think that him being, I think he's just great for the league. People will say like, oh, Patrick Vieira. I think that's having his face as part of the league is good for the league. And second off, he's got it going pretty good at NYCFC in terms of the talent that he's got And actually, third of all, he hasn't won anything at NYCFC. So I'm not sure that he's ready to step in and go from MLS, where there really isn't a ton of pressure, to come and replacing a 20-year legend at Arsenal.
I want to talk about probably a job with the utmost amount of pressure coming
in after Arsene
with
Wenger,
the trajectory of the club that in which it's gone, an entire fan base, Arsenal Fan TV, watching every single move at that club. That is a big shoes to fill. So a guy like Patrick Vieira, I think, to your point, being thrown into the fire like that, I think, give or take, it's kind of like when we see a new manager. I'll use a baseball analogy. A new manager in Boston, for instance. A guy by the name of Bobby Valentine didn't do that so well. So I think it's a similar situation at Arsenal. It's just such a club that's under the microscope all the time. So guys like Patrick Vieira definitely, I think, would potentially struggle coming over.
So looking at Arsenal, now taking it from a player personnel point of view, going into next season with a new manager, do you think they can finish top 4 and get back? Because right now they're not going to get into the Champions League unless they win the Europa League, which I personally do not see happening. So I think that right now their focus needs to be on next year and looking to finish top 4 and getting back into the Champions League. Do you think they can do that? Because personally, I don't think so.
I think that they can finish 4th next year. I don't think they're better than Man City. I think on the day they can be better than Man United, but player for player, Man United is a stronger side. I think Jose Mourinho actually limits them from their full capabilities as a team. I think Liverpool's a better side, and we were talking about it yesterday. Tottenham, they might have a fire sale.
Yeah, that's the key for me, is what happens with Tottenham this summer.
Yeah.
With guys like Christian Eriksen, Harry Kane, Dele Alli, are they going to want to stay? Or because actually, I think another key that we haven't even thought about is that this is a World Cup summer. Mm-hmm. So if those guys go to the World Cup, have a tremendous World Cup, Tottenham might be like, you know what, we just need to cash. We just need to cash in on these guys right now. So I think, to your point, if Tottenham has a fire sale, then I could see Arsenal maybe slipping into that 4th spot. But right now, looking at their roster compared to the other top rosters in the Premier League, and we haven't even brought up Chelsea. We don't know what's going to happen with Chelsea with a new manager. I personally do not think Arsenal finishes top 4. So I guess we'll see what happens, and it's new exciting times for Arsenal, which is the first time you've been able to say that in quite a long time.
I still can't believe. I don't think it's sunk in. I don't think it's really going to sink in until I see a different manager just on the sideline, and a different manager struggling with a zipper to zip up the big parka. And I can confidently say that maybe myself, Ben Friedel, was the catalyst to send Arsene Wenger out of Arsenal, because I traveled to London. I was at the Emirates Stadium. I was within 200 yards of Arsene Wenger, and I saw him face to face, and maybe that just struck fear in the man. And is it a coincidence that the year I go see Arsenal, that's the year that Arsene Wenger finally retires? Who knows?
All right, so we're going to wrap up this segment. And now when we come back, we're going to talk about what was a pretty exciting weekend in baseball. We had no-hitters. We had near no-hitters. The Red Sox have 17 wins, and they are the best team in baseball. Or are they? We'll discuss all that when we come back. Like what you're hearing? Well, I've got news for you. You no longer have to wait a whole week to hear from your favorite sports personalities. Hi, I'm Nate Wiggins, and Ben Friedel and I have got you covered. Give our show, The Unathletic, a sports podcast, a listen. We release new episodes every Monday and are committed to bringing you the best content. That's right, the very best content.